Okay, what about now? Can you hear me? Okay, so let's start over. Okay, the first thing we want to do, um, since you guys couldn't hear me, what we're going to do is I want to just start from the beginning and just kind of tell you how we're going to do this go-to training. My name is Professor Terry Clark, and I'm going to be your host for this go-to training. In this go-to training, what we're going to do is we're going to discuss the project, part one of the project. Um, I'm just going to basically go through the project, show you where it's located, talk about, what you're required to do in the project. And then once I'm finished with my presentation, I'm going to open the floor for questions and answers. Okay, this particular go-to training is being videoed. And so everyone that's registered can access it in their archives. Okay, so the first place we want to go is to the Full Sail platform, okay, FSO. And then you want to go to your dashboard where you see your activities. When we get to the activity section, we're going to go straight to where week one is, and we're going to see project assignment one is located there. Okay. Not only is the project located there, you will access the project from the dashboard, but you can also see the weighted average of the project. Okay, so this project is worth 10% of your overall grade. Okay, um, an interesting thing to look at while we're looking at the weighted average for project one, if you scroll up and you look at the go-to training and the references and the Alex software, you'll see that that's worth 0% of your overall grade. If you go right above the project one and look at the math anxiety discussion, you'll see that that's worth 5% of your overall grade. So the dashboard is a good place to go and use it as a calendar to plan your assignments and to also see how assignments are going to affect your overall grade. Okay. The access date to the assignments is the first thing that we're going to come across. And so the access date for project assignment one is March the 30th. So that means that's when we can first get to it. Okay, to submit, Alex Module 2 in week 2, we'll see that the access date there is April the 6th. That means you can't access it until that date. Now, after the access date, you're going to see the due date. Okay, so the due date for the math anxiety discussion was April the 1st. Okay, now if you're in my class and you turn an assignment late, okay, you might not be able to access that assignment, but you can turn in your late assignments under the comment section of that assignment. So, if you look at, say, for instance, project one is due on April 14th, you don't get it in on that time, then at that point you can turn it in under the comment section. Of course, there'll be late penalties applied to it, 10% every day you're late. Okay, so, and that's for my class. Different instructors have different late policy requirements. So don't take what I'm saying by my late policy requirements and attach it to your class. If you're in a different class, you'll need to talk to your instructor about their late assignment policy. Okay, so, okay, somebody's still not hearing me. Okay, what about everybody else can clearly hear me because you guys stated you could. I'm going to tell George to turn up his volume. He needs to probably check his volume, George. Check your volume. All right. Okay, so this is where you're going to see the project right here. Okay. Before you open up the project, um, you got some vital information, grade wise, due date, that kind of stuff is important. Okay. Now, once we get there, one of the things that you'll do, now I have to open mine different, okay, because the way mine is set up, I have actually have the instructor's view of the platform. You guys have a different view. Okay, so when I open mine like this, I'm gonna see the downloads right here, the movie set, and there's music studios. Okay, now this project, there's two versions of it. Okay, you can either do a movie set or you can do a music studio. You don't have to do both. Okay, you only have to do one. Okay, so at this point, you'll choose. If you want to do the movie set, then you'll unlock the movie set zip. If you want to do the music studio, then you'll unlock the music studio zip. Okay, and when you unlock those zips, when you click them, when you scroll to them, the cursor, the pointer is going to turn to a hand. You're going to click the button, and then it's going to give you access to those zips. Now, once you unzip them, then you're going to see files like the ones that I'm showing you right now. Okay, so I've got two available. I got the music studio and I got the movie set up. Okay, now the first thing you want to do is kind of look at you should look at the instructions, but I like to look at the rubrics first. And the reason why I like to look at the rubrics first is because it's going to tell me in a glance, exactly what I need to be paying attention to in the instructions and, how my grade is going to be uh, distributed to me. I like to know um, how much time I need to spend on each section. Because if the section's worth 70% of my grade, then I want to spend 70% of my time on that. I don't want to spend, 70% of my time on something that's only worth 5% of the grade. So I just like to look at the rubrics first, okay? And I'm going to open up the rubrics and let me see if I can pull that open for you, okay? So when I look at the rubrics, it's going to tell me that 10% of my grade is based upon the blueprint. Okay. So, whereas I may spend a lot of time on the blueprint, okay, I know that it's only 10% of my grade. So if I do a really, really great blueprint and I struggle with everything else, then that's not going to be a great grade. Because let's say if I only do the blueprint and I do nothing else, the highest grade I can make is 10% because the blueprint is only worth 10% of my grade. Now, another thing I'm gonna notice that the dimensions, and it says dimension changes. So that means if I'm increasing or decreasing the dimensions, that's worth 30 points of my grade. And it says all 12 calculations. So that's telling me that I've got to perform 12 calculations with dimension changes where I'm increasing or decreasing the dimensions. There's going to be 12 calculations. So let's say, for instance, I do 5 calculations. Then I know that's not 12, something's wrong. So that'll be something that I'll write down, and that's 30%. That's 30% of my grade. So I'm really going to want to pay attention to this because 30% of a grade can take you from, a 100 all the way down to a D. So that's an important part of the grade. I can't afford to mess up the dimension section. The next thing I'm going to see is the surface area. That's going to be worth 30 points. In the surface area, I'm going to notice that there are 15 calculations. Okay, so all 15 of those calculations, okay, have to be done correctly, okay, in order for me to pick up those 30 points with proper format and proper units. Okay, so if I'm figuring out the area, it's got to be, if it's feet, it's got to be feet with square feet involved in it because the area is always going to be square. And the math has to be correct. If it's supposed to be 30, it can't be 15 or 17. Then the next portion is going to be the budget analysis. Okay, that's going to be section 4, budget analysis. And that's going to be worth 30 points. There's going to be 5 calculations that have to be done in the budget analysis. Okay, so I've got sections 4, sections 3, sections 2, and section 1. Okay, and all 4 of those sections have to be done in order for me to um, do well. Okay, now if I didn't do the blueprint, the highest grade I can make is a 90. But the other sections, they're going to be more important. Okay, and so we have to really make sure that we do well in those sections. Okay, so that's the rubrics. The rubrics gives me a framework for what I can expect my grade to be if I do my work. Okay, I got 4 sections according to the rubrics that has to be done. Okay, I got the blueprint, I've got the dimensions, I've got the surface area, and I've got the budget analysis. So I got four things that I have to do um, to get a grade or earn a grade. Okay. I know that my budget analysis has five things in it. I know that my surface area has 15 in it. I know that my dimensions have 12 things I have to do. And then finally, I know that I got to do a blueprint. Now, the blueprint means it's going to be 2D, so that's like just, a regular blueprint with all of your walls, windows, and doors, and then your measurements in it. Okay, so just a regular blueprint. It can't be hand drawn. There are programs out there that you can use, okay, that will help you out with doing the blueprint. Okay, so that's the rubrics. Now, once I finish with looking at my rubrics, now I'm going to go look at my directions because the directions is going to give me insight into how I can get all four of those sections done. Okay, so the rubrics kind of set the table, gave me the big picture. Now I'm going to fill in that big picture with all these little details that are going to be necessary. And then once I finish looking at the instructions, then I'll pull up all of the worksheets that come in play. Now, notice I said I got four sections. I got budget analysis, I've got dimensions, I've got surface, and I've got blueprint. Okay, so let me pull these out of here because these were PDFs that I created for someone else. Okay, so when I look here in the music studio, I see that I got a surface area worksheet. I see that I got a budget analysis worksheet. And I see I got a dimensions change worksheet. So I got three worksheets. The only thing that I have to do on my own is the blueprint. Okay, so all the stuff that I need to get my work done has pretty much been provided for me, except for, you know, the blueprint. What information I can use to get the blueprint done. Okay. Now, that's not a problem. Okay, I can't hear you. I don't know why George can't hear me. Let me look and see what's going on. You guys give me a second. Okay, I don't know why he can't hear me. He doesn't have audio either. Okay, George, one of the things you may want to do is if you look at the audio section, okay, you've got um, a radio button. One says telephone, the other one says mic and speakers. You may want to click and make sure that the button is clicked on to mic and speakers. Okay, let me do this for you too, George. Unmute George. Okay, George, can you talk to me? Hello, George. Hello, George. Hello, George. George, can you hear me? Hello, George. Okay, I'm not sure what's going on with yours, George. Hello, George. Well, he's having audio problems, and so I'm trying to help him out with it. Okay, George, you may have to pick us up in the archives. I mean, you are registered for this section. I am recording, so you may have to pick us up there. Well, let me send him a message. Yeah, he's back. I can see him. Okay, let me see if I can respond to him, George, because I don't know what's going on. You may to listen in the archive because I'm just sending a message archive once we are finished. Okay, so there, I sent him a message. If he can't hear me, let me say this to him. Um, check the radio button inside of the check the radio button inside of the audio section and make sure it is on mic speaker. All right, there we go. All right, so there we go. Okay, so right now we're looking at the instructions. Okay, we've looked at the rubrics so far, so now we're going to move to the instructions. The rubrics kind of gave us a blueprint of what we can expect from the instructions. Okay, the rubrics is just the generalization, it's the big picture. The instructions is going to fill in all the details for what we'll need to do in each of those sections, or just give us more insight. Okay, so here's the instructions. It's kind of telling us what our learning objectives are, the things that are the math skills that we'll use inside of this project. We're going to learn about decimals, fractions, percentages, integers, measurements, and geometry. So if you're like weak in any of these areas, then what you'll need to do is go to Alex and brush up on those areas, because you're going to need to know about fractions and decimals and percents and integers, and also measurements and geometry in order to complete this project. Okay. Now, what some people like to do is, not go brush up on the whole thing before you get started. But as you're working through the project, you may have to stop the project, go brush up on something, then come back to the project, work on the project some more, and then if you encounter another concept you're not familiar with, go brush up on it, then come back to the project, as opposed to just going through and picking up a whole bunch of information you may not need for the project. Okay, so here we go. Designing your room. That's section 1. So it's going to tell us about what we need to do in section 1. Now notice it says no hand-drawn layouts will be accepted. It needs to be in 2D. We're providing you with 2 websites that you can go to in order to construct your 2D blueprint. Okay, so you don't really have to ask a bunch of questions about, what constitutes 2D. If you go to this website and start constructing um, your layout, it's going to be automatically in 2D if you're using the floor planner or the homestyler.com. Okay, it also tells you that you can you get to choose between customary or metric measurements. Then you get to choose one, and it doesn't have to be both, so you don't have to put 2 blueprints in. That's all in the directions. It says that you need to have measurements for your walls, windows, and doors. And then it says that each room must be proportionate and cannot be smaller than a room with smaller measurements. So it's got the measurements and the room sizes, or the visual, have got to be realistic. Okay, you can't say a room is this size measurement wise, and then it's like way bigger than a room that's that's supposed to be bigger than it measurement wise. Okay, each room. Okay, and then it also at the end it says it must be submitted as a PDF file. Okay, so it's got to come as a PDF. Okay, so those are the things that have got to be done in section 1. Now, picking one of the websites. Okay, that's up to you. You pick whichever one is comfortable for you. Okay, that's not something that we'll tell you to do, because you may look at one and you may understand it better. You got to do the work. Okay, but you do have to make sure you've got walls and windows. You got to make sure that your measurements are proportionate to the actual size of your visuals displays in your blueprint, and it's got to be in PDF when you're finished with it. Well, Tyler, I'm going to answer the questions at the end. Okay, right now I just want to get through the steps, and then all of those other questions, I'll get to them once I'm finished going through everything. Unless it's a question related to what I'm talking about right now. Okay, so no hand drawn. It's got to be 2D. Okay, if you use Home Stylers or Floor Planner, it's going to automatically be 2D. If you don't use Home Stylers or Floor Planner, then you probably need to make sure it's 2D and not 3D. And everybody knows 2D is two-dimensional, length and width, versus length, width, and height. If it pops out of the page like a 3D movie, that's not 2D. Okay, 2D is just flat on, like, the screen right now is 2D. Okay, for section one, continued, uh, these are the measurements, okay, that will be used for each room. Okay, so you've got your feet and then you have your meters. Okay, and so you can use which one you want to. You can put your rooms in terms of measurements of customary, or you could put them in terms of meters or metric. Okay, so that's up to you which one you want to use. Okay, but your measurements have already been done for you. Okay, you just got to set up your room using these measurements. That's going to be used for painting purposes, Tyler. Okay, so that's going to be used for painting purposes because you got walls and stuff that you're going to need to be painted and stuff. So that kind of stuff, you know, you'll see it later on. So that's why you got walls because things got to be done to them. Okay. All right, here's section two. So, okay, so now we moved away from section two. Okay, so we know in section one we had to do the blueprint. The dimensions were provided to us in section one. Okay, now we're going to move on to section two. And then what we're going to have to do is download the dimensions change document. And then we're going to have to complete it. So those dimensions that we just seen in section one, those are going to get changed out. Okay, so what I want to do right now is I'm going to pull up that dimensions change document so I can look at it as I'm looking at the instructions. Okay, so here we go. All right, so in this, the dimensions that were provided for room one and room two are given to us. Okay, and what they're going to ask us to do is for room one, they're going to ask us to increase it by 24%. So that means that we're going to have to, multiply it by 24% and find out what the increase is. And then we'll do the same thing for the metrics as well. Let me see something here for a second. All right, I got something here. Where is it at? I'm looking for a program. That's normally right in front of my face. Here it is, Sketchpad. Okay. Let's say, for instance, let's say I got something I want to increase it by 32%. I want to show you guys something. If it comes up, I know I just clicked on Sketchpad. Nope. Um, Sketchpad. Why is it not pulling? Why is it doing that? Was purchased using Apple Store on another computer? Oh, why is it not on here? Okay. Okay, I may have to do that at the end. Cancel this. Okay, let me do that at the end then because it's not letting me do it. Okay, well, let me do it here in the box. Okay, let's say I have 200 feet and I want to increase it by 33%. I'm going to go 1.33 like that. You know what? I still got it on George. It's like turning into, so if I got 200 feet and I want to increase that by 33%, then I'm going to just put it in like that. Okay. And then all I got, now notice the 33. Now the 1 stands for the 100% that the 200 feet already is. And then the point 33 is the 33% that it's going to be increased by. So I've got the 100% and the 33% combined. So when I take 200 feet and multiply it by 1.33, it will give me my increase. In this case, okay, I'm I'm pulling up my calculator because I'm not gonna do it by hand. Okay, and so it's saying that when I take the 200 and multiply it by the 133, 1.33, 1.33, which is 133%, then that's going to give me 266 feet. Okay, so that's going to give me 266 feet. Okay. All right, now the other part is the decreasing by 1/3. Okay, now I can decrease it two ways. The fastest way to do it is take the 1/3 and subtract 100% from 1/3, or take 1 and minus 1/3, and that's going to give me 2/3. So I'll take that 200 feet and multiply it by 2/3. Okay, and that'll actually give me my decrease. Okay, more people make mistakes on this type of problem than any other kind of problem. And then I'm going to divide it by 3. And then that'll leave me with, okay, 133.33 feet. Okay, so notice that. Okay, so my decrease was actually like 66.67 feet. Okay, so notice, and that's about right because 1/3 is a small portion of the total. Okay, so if I take the 200 and multiply it by 2/3, it actually will give me, what the decrease was. Okay, now that feet right there, that's still not finished because the feet have to be, it can't be, it's got to be whole numbers, so it's got to be feet and inches. So I'm going to take the 0.33 and multiply it by 12 because there's 12 inches in a feet, and figure out, that 0.33, how many inches that's actually going to be. So when I take 0.33 multiply it by 12, that's going to give me 3.96 inches. So in the end, I'm going to be left with 133 feet, and I'm going to round that up to 4 inches. Okay, so that's 133 feet and 4 inches. So that's my final answer. Okay, 0.33 feet is not 0.33 inches. Okay, you have to convert that fraction of a feet into actual inches. Okay, once again, I only have to fill in, let's see, I'm not going to keep this. I only have to fill in these sections right here, and then right here, and then on the bottom part, I only have to fill in, no fair, here, got to fill in that part, and then I got to fill in this part right here. So those blank spaces there have to get filled in. Okay, so all that's got to get filled in with my work. Okay. Okay, and so they just kind of tell us at the bottom that 0.8 times 12 does not equal 9.6 inches. Well, it does equal that. Yep, you do figure metric and customary because it's in the chart. Okay, the 24% is increased by the customary at the top, and the 24% is increased by metric at the top as well. Okay, take all that out. Okay, so we can see it's customary and metric. Customary and metric. Okay, But that's how you convert the feet to inches. If you got 0.75 feet, you take 0.75 and multiply it by 12. And 0.75 multiplied by 12 will tell you how many inches that is. Okay. Well, what I would suggest you do is get started early on it. Take your time and go through it. If you got questions about it, you can always go to Alex and look at examples. This archive is recorded. So since you registered for it, you can always go back and play it and look at the examples I provided you. Okay. To get an understanding of it. Well, you got to do everything in the chart. Okay. So the chart has customary and metric in it. Okay. Those blank spaces are what you got to fill in. One's customary and one's metric. Okay. And so you see it says 18, 14, and 12 feet. And it says 5.49 meters, 4.27 meters, 3.66 meters. So you got to fill in both of these. Okay. We got the feet here for the original, and then we got the meters. And then you can see that both have to be increased. Okay. For your blueprint, you only have to choose one, but you got to fill in all of the blank spaces, okay, on the worksheet. Yeah, on the blueprint, George, you have to choose one, but on the worksheet, you've got they're both there on the worksheet. So you got to do the calculations on the worksheet. Because remember, on the worksheet, there's 12. Okay, remember when we read the rubrics, it said that there had to be 12 calculations. Okay, so if you did the three for the 18 feet, the 14 feet, and the 12 feet, and then you skip down to the bottom where the decrease and you did the 22, 17, and 12 feet, that's only six calculations. The rubric said there was 12. So you know there got to be, you know, 3 times 2 is 6 for the customary and the metric, and then 3 times 2 is 6 for the decrease for the customary and the metric. So you know there's 12. So all 12 of those blank spaces got to be filled in. That's why I like to look at the rubrics first, because the rubrics lets me know that pretty much everything has to be done. Okay, yep, that's a good joke, George. You round up to the nearest whole number. Okay, I think with the metric, I don't know with the metric. Let's see. With the metric, you don't have the with the metric you round to the nearest hundred. Okay, so let's say if you have 12.357 meters like that, that'll equal, and I'm gonna put it in here in a second, 0.36. Okay, so if you had meters, you round to the nearest whole hundredth of a place. Okay, so if it's like 13.356, then it gets rounded to 13.36. But that's a good question. Okay, any more questions on the calculations for the dimension changes? Because I know this is where the math is. Okay, remember with the customary, you got to convert the fractions of a feet to inches. With the metric, because it's only one unit, you only have to convert, or you only have to round. You don't actually convert, you round to the nearest hundredth. Okay, so that's the second number past the decimal. Okay, so that is, I don't want to say that. Don't want to save any of my changes. So that's the dimensions. Okay, we got to complete that. And then the next thing we got to do is we've got to look at the surface area. So we got to paint the walls. Okay, hence that's why we needed the height so that we could paint the walls. We're going to complete the surface area document. So I'm going to pull that up. Okay, you're going to complete the surface area document. You're going to use either customary or metric. That's your choice. Correct units must be included with your answer. And you're going to submit the complete document. Okay, now painting the walls is different than the dimensions change. Okay, with the dimensions change, notice it says customary must be recorded and metric. So it's got customary here and it's got the metric. Okay, so see that it says customary must be recorded in feet and inches, metric must be rounded to the nearest hundred. So with the dimensions, you got both. But when you get to the painting the walls, just like with the blueprint, it's your choice again. So the blueprint is your choice again. Okay, so what I want to do is I'm going to pull up the surface area. Okay, and then we'll look at it. Okay, here's your areas right here. Okay, so you got wall 1, wall 2, wall 3, and wall 4. Okay, so in calculating these, you've got to figure out the area of walls 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then that's going to give you an area. Then you'll figure out what your total area is for that room. Then for walls 1, 2, 3, and 4, then you got your areas for that as well. And then for walls room 3, you got walls 1, 2, 3, and 4 for that. Okay, now you get to choose, so we provide you with both. Okay, so in this area, what you're basically looking at is the area for something. Okay, with the walls, it's going to be height and width. Okay, and that's sort of like length and width, but the walls are high. So that's why you got that. So let's say for wall 1, I wanted to figure out the area. Let's say I have 12 feet times 14 feet. And then I multiply that together. And then that's going to give me, and I'm using a calculator because I want to spend more time talking, 168. And then that's going to be square feet. Square feet. Okay, now make sure you put that 168 square feet in there. If the 168, if you come up with a number different than 168, it's wrong. If you come up with a value that doesn't have square in it, it's wrong. If you come up with a value that doesn't have feet in it, it's wrong. It's got to have all 3 of those in it if you're using customary. Okay. Now, if you're using meters, then it would be square meters. Yep, this is doing the 14th. Um, the dashboard is a good place to look at all your due dates. Okay, so that's how we figure out the area. Okay, it's going to be length times width. These are rectangles or squares. Okay, and then of course at the bottom you add up all 3 areas, and then that's where those values come at. So that's going to be your surface area for painting purposes. Okay, now we're almost finished. From there we go to section 4. Okay, in section 4, um, you look at your budget, and then we're going to do some analysis. Okay, so I want to look at the budget analysis. Where is that at? Budget analysis. Here we go. For Music Studio, we'll pull that up. And we're still waiting for the budget analysis to pull up. Okay, so here we go. Okay, so that's your budget analysis right here. So it says what percentage of the video expenses are cameras. So that means we've got to fill in this information. You're going to show your steps, and then you're going to provide your answers. Okay, so your steps is actually the work it took. What did you have to multiply together to come up with the what percentage of the video expenses are cameras? Okay, what did you have to divide to come up with that percentage? Okay, so to do that, we've got to find our budget. Where's the budget at? Okay, maybe that's the budget analysis. Okay, that's the budget right there. Okay, so here's our budget right here. Okay, so we'll use this budget right here to answer those questions. Okay, so it says what percentage of the video expenses are the cameras? Okay, so there's your video expenses right here. Okay, they're like, one to the third box down. That's your video expenses. Okay, and then it gives you your total, which is 30,000. Then you would go in and find your cameras, and then you would figure out what the percentages was. Right, Tyler. That's right. So let's say we had a budget for our own personal expenses, and our car payment was like $350 car payment. And our total bills were like 2,000 total monthly bills of 2,000. And we wanted to know what percentage of the total bill is the car payments. We would take 350 divided by 2,000, and then that would tell us in terms of a decimal uh, what decimal value is it. That's right. Okay, so let me clear this for a second. So we've got 350 divided by 2,000. That's going to give us 0.175 as a decimal. Now that decimal is not a percentage, that's a decimal value. To get a percentage, we got to move it two places to the right, 17.5%. Okay, so it's going to be 17.5% when we move it two places to the right. So the car is 17.5% of our total budget. The car payment is. Okay, and so those are the kind of budget analysis you'll be doing. You'll be looking at the budget, and you'll be making decisions about the cost in the budget. You'll be basically answering the questions, and then you'll be putting your steps in and then providing your answer. Okay, so if that was the case, we would have put the 350 divided by 2,000 as our steps for a calculation, and then our answer will be put into under the answer section at 17.5%. And then there was another question that says, what fraction is the professional drum kit of the additional expenses for recording? So we'll go find professional drum kits, okay, and then that's going to be in the additional expenses for recording section, which is the second box. We'll look down for professional drum kits, okay, and then with those kind of things, you're going to want to make sure you reduce the fraction to the lowest form. So if we wanted to know the fraction for the car payment over the total budget, that 350 divided by 2,000 would have to be simplified down. Now, one of the things we could do is divide both of these by 10, and then that would give us 35 over 200. And then we could divide that by 5, and then that would give us 7 over 40. Okay, so that's the way we break it down. We divided 350 over 2,000 by 10, and that gave us 35 over 200. Then we divided 35 by 5, and that gave us 7. So when we say fraction form, don't just put 350 over 2,000, because that's not going to be right. You got to simplify it down to its lowest terms, okay, in order for you to come up with the correct answer. So, just make sure you follow the rules for math as you're you're going through and you're answering these questions. Okay, so that's our budget analysis. Okay. Um, the difference between the music budget studio and the movie is going to be the designs and the budget. Okay. So what I want to do now is I want to look at the budget analysis for the um, movie because the movie is going to have a different budget. Okay. See the budget for the movie. Notice that it's different. Okay. You got a different budget for the movie. Okay. And so your analysis is going to be different as well. Okay. So you're going to have a different analysis. Okay. Totally different analysis for that. Um, Other things that are going to be the same, let me look at your dimensions. Okay. See, everybody has the same dimensions. You got the same, 18 feet by 14 feet by 12 feet, you know, you know. So the dimensions changes for both projects are going to be the same. Okay. Now, how you lay it out, of course, will be different, and what you put in there will be different because there's a difference between a movie and a music studio in the design layout. The dimensions, the space area could be the same, but the way it looks and the kind of equipment and resources you'll put in there will be totally different. Okay, like, for instance, where you put the window at, the window, may not be able to open. It may be a window that you can just peer through to see what's going on. So, because you may want the sound to be kept in. Okay. So the only difference between the two is going to be the blueprint layout and the budget analysis. Okay. Even like the surface area. Okay. You got the same surface area layout as well. Okay. So that's going to be the same for both. Okay. So we're just going to have different budgets, and you'll have like different layout designs, you know, or other types of rooms, should I say. It'll still be room one, but room one may be a bathroom, and then room two may be a sound room versus room two may be a movie set uh, in the movie set project. Okay, so that's the project in a nutshell. Okay. Does anybody, or let's say this right here, what questions do you guys have about the project? Okay, so what question? It'll be turned in as a PDF. You can turn it as a PDF. What you could actually do is, uh, take everything and then just, bring it together. Now, some people have did zip files on it. Okay. Yeah, PDF is Adobe Reader. So even if you build it as a Word document, then you can, when you click Save As, then you can um, save it as a PDF. You can save it and change the type of document it is. Yeah, you're right. I mean, you could copy and paste them or zip. You would probably end up zipping it because there's multiple worksheets that need to be brought together. So you could fill the worksheets out and then zip it. Okay, and then converting a fraction, let's say you have 2/5. Really what you end up doing is dividing 2 by 5, and then that's going to give you zero point 0.4, and then you convert that to decimal by percentage by moving it 2 places to the right. So that's how you do it. You take 2 divided by 5, and you just put it in your calculator, 2 divided by 5, and then that's going to equal zero point 0.4, and then you take zero point 0.4 and you move the decimal 2 places to the right. Okay, so we move decimal. To, uh, oh, how do we do it backwards? The word percent means per 100. So 40% is actually 40 out of 100. Okay, so that's what the word percent means. Inside that word percent, it means per 100. Cent comes from the word century or centurion. Okay, that means, uh, or centimeter means per 100. So, and then at 40 over 100, we can divide both of them by 10, and that gives us 4 over 10. And then they can both be divided by 2, and then that gives us 2/5. So remember, it always gets simplified down to the lowest terms. So even though you may start out as a per 100, you still got to simplify it or reduce the fraction. Always simplify and reduce fractions to the lowest terms. The lowest terms. Okay. Okay. So we agree that we're gonna zip the documents because we've got multiple worksheets. We got a blueprint that's got to be constructed. We've got a budget analysis worksheet. We got a surface area worksheet, and we got a dimensions change worksheet. So that's going to be 4 um, documents: PDF form for the blueprint. The worksheets are Excel worksheets, and I think one is a Word document. So that those 4, all those get zipped into one file and then uploaded to FSO. Okay. If you don't have any questions at this point, you're free to go because that is the end of my presentation for the project for part 1. If you've got questions, stick around. I'll answer any questions that you may have pertaining to the project, Alex, or any other assignment. It depends on the instructor. If you're in my class, you can always, just reach out to me. Now, this particular go-to training will be archived. It's going to be recorded. Okay, so you can always go back because you're registered for this class. The link is going to be provided for you. You can always come back to it. If you go back into your go-to trainings, it should tell you that these are your recorded videos or archived videos. Everybody that let me see if I can pull it because all you got to do is just go into my recordings. Let me see my trainings. Let's see. Let's see. Okay, so when I go here and look at everything that's scheduled or coming up, if I click on my recordings here, no fair, I'll see that there's actually a recording that was done on March the 30th. So everybody that was registered for this one, okay, they have this link here. Okay. What I do for my class is I provide a copy of the link in the announcement section. So, and then it's like if you're in my class, let's see, right here, here's the announcement. What they do is they just go in and copy this like that. They just go in and copy it, or they can go to this address. You can copy it, or you just click on go to address like that. And then if you didn't register for it, you gotta register. It says register to view this recording. Okay. Not necessarily. I don't think so. Okay. I think I'm the first to cover it. But because you guys are registered with me, you should have access to this. You'll have access to this recording when I'm finished. Okay, so you'll have access to this. It should be under your recording section. Even if my class is with Crystal, who is, well, I don't know Crystal. Okay. Chriswell, I don't know Chriswell either. I don't think we got a teacher named Chris. What's the first name of that teacher? Oh, Precious. Okay, I know Precious. I didn't know her name was Chriswell. Yeah, because you're registered. You're registered for my go-to training. One of the things like it tells you is, yeah, so you should have access to it because you're registered already. And so everyone that registered for this class has access to the recordings. Okay. And if you have a problem with it, just let Precious know that you took the go-to training with me, and I'll provide her with a link that you can just, go straight to. But you shouldn't have a problem with it because you're registered um, for the class. Okay, go-to training works like all other online trainings. When you register for the class, they provide you with a link of the recordings. Okay, so everybody gets a copy of the link. Okay, not a problem. Yeah, everybody's free once the go-to trainings are voluntary, and so you're free to go whenever, we provide you with the information you need. You don't have to stay the entire time. So, like say for instance, if it's a training on Alex and you've got like 5 or 6 questions, once you get your questions answered, you can leave and you can come back, because I mean we'll be here for the entire time. Okay, but it's much like a math center or a writing center where it's an opportunity for you to just come in and get your questions answered. Or if we're doing presentations, sit in on those presentations and just get answers to your questions. Okay, so let's see. All right, so at this point, I'm going to stop the recording